Nursing students, time to talk. Welcome to the Real Talk School of Nursing Podcast, Season 4, Episode 14. This is Michael Smith from the Real Talk School of Nursing Podcast. Nursing school is a struggle for many. Everyone struggles at one point or another, even that seemingly bulletproof student you're thinking about right now. Some people will struggle with tests, some will struggle with clinicals or lab or sims, and some of those students who struggle with none of those things will struggle within the profession. Nursing school is a struggle for some from day one until the day you graduate. It was for me. It might be for you too. But trust me, if I can make it, you can. Just keep working hard. Be truthful to yourself. Be joyful in the hard stuff. On the other end of school is a profession that is amazingly hard. I'm not going to lie to you, especially in the first year. And the rewards, though amazing, are sometimes heartbreaking too. You will have to wade through a lot of muck and mud to get to these amazing little jewels of experiences that make coming to work worth it. Nursing and nursing school isn't just about learning content, about learning the tasks that you have to do. It's about learning to grow through adversity, coming out the other end stronger. You will struggle outside of school too, but I promise you when you make it, it's worth it. So I'll see you on the other end of this crazy nursing school journey. Well, hi everybody. It's your good and faithful host, Michael Smith. I know it's been forever, and for that, I really apologize, but I needed some time. So the last episode was May 25th, I think, and the day that I'm recording this section right here is August 20th, I think. 19th? Time is kind of irrelevant in all of this quarantine stuff. You know, it started off as we were going to flatten the curve, 15 days to make sure that the hospitals weren't overwhelmed. And now it's like day 7,000. I don't know, like 150, I think. Something like that. But obviously, like everybody else's life, a lot of things are going on, right? I think starting back in March is when we really started seeing all of this stuff going on, and then we got the George Floyd, and then we got all the riots, and then, and it just, these things kept compounding and compounding and compounding, and in addition to that, on a personal level, I got put into surge scheduling, and what that means is that instead of working a 0.8 working 8-hour shifts, I'm working a 1.2 or a 1.5 working 12s. And so, my hours have increased, and basically I go to work, 6 days a week, and I work 12-hour shifts, and so I'm very tired on my one day off per week. And it's been, so far, I think 8 weeks of that. I've got 4 weeks to go. No, 2 weeks to go. End of August is the end of my surge schedule. And I have felt pretty guilty about not putting an episode out. Now, let's go back to kind of the beginning of what's been going on with all of this stuff, because I feel a certain responsibility to be truthful with everybody, and I'm doing this completely off the cuff. Usually I have some stuff prepared, some thoughts that are written out, but I think for this episode, I really needed to be off the cuff and honest and from my heart. So the first hit came with the previous hosts sent me a text and said, "Hey, what happened to our old episodes?" And I had removed many of the old episodes. I had kept episode 1 through 5, I think, and then kept the last 5 that they did to kind of ease the transition. But a lot of the middle ones weren't getting listened to and stuff like that, so I took them out. And, some of that might be, some people might think, like, well, gee whiz, that just seems, that's pretty petty. And I said, well, I'm talking to these guys, and these are guys that I looked up to and respected, and, I wanted to take over this great podcast, but that was 2 years ago. I mean, literally 2 years ago is when I took this over. And so 2 years ago, when I took this over, they were a struggling nursing podcast. I loved them. I thought they were funny. I gained a lot of perspective. I mean, one of the reasons that I listened to them was because I didn't feel alone. I felt like they talked about some of the struggles and frustrations of nursing school, and those things spoke to me because I didn't feel like I'm the only one who has these feelings. So I took over the podcast, and I took it over 100%. This is not the same podcast that they had. Not in any freaking way whatsoever. Okay? So, that said, I still love those guys. I think they made a great product. But the problem became people would discover the podcast, one way or the other, and it seemed like they would listen to one of the first, any number of any combination of the first 3 episodes, and then they would just stop listening at episode 4. Stopped. And I loved the first 5 episodes that they had. I thought were fantastic, and there's really good things, especially probably in the last 5 that they did. But again, I think they started to lose focus, and the last 3 or 4 episodes were spaced out months and months and months apart, and that became a problem because they weren't putting out content. And again, this is coming from the perspective of I haven't put out, it's now, I think it's August 19th today. So August 19th today, and I haven't put out an episode since May 25th. I freaking get it. However, I have been extremely active on Instagram and have seen a lot of success there. So if you started following us on Instagram, thank you so much. Instagram seems to be kind of one of those platforms that just kind of lends itself to, hey, I can put out this funny thought that I had, and this is really quick. I learned a lot about making memes in the last couple of months, and learned how to kind of put some resources together to kind of do those things. And it's a good way to communicate for me, because I can share thoughts, and I can kind of share how things are going and make really good nursing memes. I think some of the stuff that I've been doing over the last month, since May, has been phenomenal. I mean, I think a lot of it's really good. Some of them aren't that good, but some of them I just, every single time I see them, I start laughing because I think they're hilarious. And I hope you do too. And so if you're not a follower on Instagram, you should go to @RealTalkNursing on Instagram, look us up, hit that follow button, and, laugh with me, right? But anyway, so this conversation turned really sour with one of the previous hosts, and basically, we had a complete split. Not that 2 years ago we didn't have a complete split, or not 2 years ago, because I was still kind of working for them when they were still doing their podcast, and then I think July 2019 is when they did their last podcast, and I did it for a couple more months, and I had some really kind of shady interactions with them where they were just, well, again, one of them just seemed very unhappy and very short and whatever, and it didn't seem like this was a good relationship. And I said, okay, what's it going to take for me to split off from you guys completely? I don't want to be associated with you guys anymore, despite the fact that I continued to promote them on the podcast, because again, these guys created, something pretty spectacular, and I think something that was worth continuing. So the interaction turned sour, and names were called, and despite the explanation that I had, I said, you have your own podcast, you're still paying for publishing. If you want to move your voices, the episodes that you did to your podcast page, go ahead and do that. They're yours. It's not mine, but I have a separate podcast now. Like, the things that I'm doing are far and away different from you guys, and I've taken this my own direction, and I want this to be mine. And so when people download the podcast or start listening to the podcast, I don't want it to be your voices that seemingly in the first 3 episodes, people listen to 1, 2, 3, and then they leave and they stop listening. And I didn't want that. I wanted people to start listening to my content. So that was kind of a hit. Obviously, you guys know that Casey joined us for 2 or 3 episodes, and that was a really hard loss. And I, she's got her own Burnt Out podcast, which I highly suggest you go and listen to. She's another great voice within the profession, and her and Mike are doing fantastic things. I think you guys should definitely subscribe to them. I love helping other nurses, and she's a great one, so definitely go and check her out, or check them out, I should say. And, that was hard, but, she wanted to do her own thing, and I applaud that. Independence, self-reliance, all of those things are fantastic values that I hold in high esteem. So she wanted to do that. And in the next section, I will talk about a third interaction that I had with a new grad that really, was one of those other interactions that just took the wind out of my sails a little bit. And then combine that with the schedule that I was keeping. I didn't see my kids for like several months, because we were trying to keep everybody apart and make sure that we were keeping the family safe, because there was a lot of stuff that we didn't know about working, with the coronavirus, with COVID-19, and I was in the thick of it. I was, and still am. I still am working with it every single day. I have positive patients every single day, walking, talking, no problem. Hey, I have a little bit of shortness of breath, whatever. Yep. Pop it right in their nose. Both nostrils, poo-poo, positive. Happens all the time. Happens all the freaking time. And so I'm still in the thick of it, but I feel like we're a little bit more established, like we have better procedures in place. I feel like we have a little bit more control over the environment, and we have, better things in place outside of the hospital within my home. And so, I feel like we're, in a better place that way. So my kids are back. I see them every morning. It's, every morning that I'm not still coming home from work. But, I see my kids every day, and it's fantastic. I get to see my family. We've exposed each other 1,000 times, so whatever. I think everybody by this time is probably exposed, because if you can go to the grocery store and all that kind of fun stuff. Oh, that was another one. Did I tell? I can't remember if I told you guys about. I went to the grocery store. I'm sure here I did it on Instagram. That's what I did. There was this lady. I went to the grocery store, and this was my first grocery store visit in months, because I had everything come in by delivery. And this lady and she had a mask on. Oh, thank goodness she had a mask on. And she touched every single package of bacon and chicken in the entire meat department. Every single one. And I'm like, stop touching stuff. And she exploded on me. And I'm like, lady, like, you don't have, like, look at one package, pick it up. If it's not precisely what you want, it's probably good enough. Just take it. Just take it. Stop touching stuff. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. So anyway, it was all of these things. And I'm physically exhausted. I was emotionally exhausted by all this kind of stuff. The work schedule was just kind of overwhelming, and I just needed some time. And so I had another interaction with Nurse Mo from Thriving Nursing, and I just asked her, I just said, I just laid it out, basically at what I'm doing now. And she said, just do an episode and just do a short thing that says, here's what's going on in my life. I needed a break. I needed a little bit of time off to make sure that I'm staying healthy mentally and physically. And I took her advice, and I didn't have time to record an episode until this morning. So again, I think today is the 19th or the 20th. I have no idea, whatever day it is. But the point is that I'm sorry it's been a long time. You guys deserve my full effort, and you haven't gotten it. And I want to make sure that I'm still putting out quality things, so quality products, quality content. So what I need you guys to do, I need you guys to go to your email, for you people who still participate in email, for you boomers out there. And I want you to go and write into the show, realtalknursing@gmail.com. If you're on Instagram, follow us on Instagram. And, you can message me through there. You can interact with some of the posts that I've been making. There's been a couple of days where I'm doing like eight posts because I just find good content. I find good things. And it just kind of makes it fun. But interact with us there. It'd be great to hear from you, whether it's Facebook Messenger, whether it's through Twitter. I don't use Twitter all that often, but, the account's still there. So if you're a Twitter person, whatever, if you are a person who uses Twitter, contact me through there. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Boomer email. So send me a text, send me a message. Let me know how you're doing. I want to know how you're doing, how you're making it through all this. I want to make sure that you guys are staying healthy and happy, and I want to know what's going on in your life. Because now you've been kind of caught up with what's been going on with mine. And again, I apologize so much to you guys for not putting out a podcast since the end of May. But it's time that I got back onto the mic. It's time that I got some content back out to you and talked about some issues from what's been going on. I mean, there's just so much. And we can all get through this together. I promise you. This too shall pass. Will things be different on the other end? Yes, of course. They are going to be different on the other end. Because the only thing that stays constant is that everything changes. Nothing stays constant. So I want you guys to know that I'm still here for you. I didn't quit. If you've been on Instagram, obviously you've seen I've been, again, very active through that. Share posts, put them onto your timeline. I'd be very honored if you guys were, had a similar sense of humor to me. But essentially that's the deal. Is that I had a lot of very difficult interactions with people, and one of them I will talk about in the next section, in the NCLEX New Grad section. But that's a deal. Like, I had a bunch of this stuff that I was exhausted. I'm exhausted and I needed a break. And I appreciate you guys coming along with me on this crazy nursing journey. Patience. What is that? Who even has time for that? PIE is P-I-E. Patience in everything. It's a simple yet difficult, yet powerful thing to learn. Think about the last time you were impatient. What came of it? How patient am I with others? How patient am I with myself? How patient and kind am I with the trials and unexpected turns in life? Am I patient and fully aware of the blessings of each day? I've been given a gift, be it fruit or life. It's up to me to choose how to use it. This is a book of short essays on life through something as simple as pie. Here's Coletta reading Piology 101.
Piology 101, the synchronicity of pie in life. How awesome to ponder how our Creator has put our individual ingredients so carefully together. Yet we get to choose our finishing touches and the temperature settings of the day. Sometimes we're hot, sometimes we're not. Every day is spent forming our own creation of self. Some days we also form a pie. Our ingredients of the day can be mixed up, nutty and complicated, or just sweetly simple. Fruits grown out of even the best soil and conditions may become bruised, but even imperfect fruit can become a pie to savor. Life, as imperfect as it may be, has a multitude of savory and sweet bites in each new day. Pie in life, filled to the brim with the fillings of our choice, oozing and bubbling over, and just so beautifully messy. Pie in life, any pie or day can end in failure and be perfected on the next. Pie in life, presented in pieces and are just what is left over, or sometimes well presented, well-rounded as a whole. Pie in life are made up of a beautiful variety of spices and different tastes. Pie in life, overworking can make it too tough. Pie in life, tender care will always produce a perfect foundation. Pie in life, dig in while it's fresh. Share that creation.
Get your copy of The Pie Letters by Coletta Hewitt in softcover or ebook from thepieletters.com. That's thepieletters.com, and buy your copy in softcover or ebook from thepieletters.com, or you can go to Amazon. Love you all. God bless.
You're listening to the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast.
I think it's time for some good old-fashioned adult talk. Today, for this section, for this new grad NCLEX prep section, I wanna have a real adult conversation here, because I just had this interaction that is absolutely mind-blowing to me. So this person that I was interacting with in social media, and I know that's kind of a trap. It's one of those things that just, social media today is just so it's so black and white. It's especially with nursing students. There's obviously I've been doing this podcast for almost 2 years, so obviously I have a place in my heart for the struggles of nursing students, having been one of you nursing students not all that long ago, and struggled. I've told you guys 100,000 times that I was probably the least academically gifted person in my cohort, in a cohort of supremely academically gifted people. But I started my portion of this podcast because I wanted to make sure that other people didn't have to learn the hard way like I did. And if I could just help them through this little piece of the pie here, that they'd be able to, they'd be able to thrive where I struggled, and add their own lessons to that mix and come out the other side better. Like, that's what I want out of this. So I had this I had this interaction with this nursing student who recently graduated, and they're saying, hey, I'm struggling. I have UWorld. I have nrsng.com or nursing.com, whatever it is. I don't care which one it is. It's the same thing. So, and they were not doing well in UWorld. Like their averages were 50% or lower. And I didn't get into the conversation where on nursing.com where their SimClex scores were, where the nursing questions were, but suffice to say that they were not. And then they did one of the assessments on UWorld, and it was borderline. So I'm like, okay. So I asked a bunch of questions. I said, okay, so this person is getting 50% or lower, 50% or lower on their UWorld overall, categories, right? And they got a borderline thing. And I said, okay, so when's your test? And they said, well, it's about a week away. And I said, okay. So the first question that I asked this person is, are you willing to sacrifice a week in order to save you 6? Because if you fail the NCLEX, it's a 6-week minimum wait period. No joke, that is 6 weeks. And if you live or if you have a job lined up, that means that waiting that 6 weeks is a $4,000-ish to $6,000-ish $1,000, $4,000 to $6,000 income loss because you didn't pass the exam. I don't know what you think of $4,000 to $6,000, but I think that's a lot of money, and I think I don't want to miss out on that. And so, am I willing to sacrifice 1 week of time in order to not waste 6 weeks of time and not earn that big income? Because that's what we're all going for, right? I mean, that's part of it. Like, I know that many of you are super magnanimous, and you are just you're very empathetic people and all of that kind of stuff. But if there wasn't some kind of fiscal payoff at the end, I'm not sure that most people would make it through nursing school or want to be a nurse if there wasn't some kind of, financial reward at the end where you could have a life for yourself and sustain yourself as a person, as a family, and all of that kind of stuff. So the first question I asked was, can you wait a week in order to save 6? And this person said, well, the next test date is like a month off. I said, okay. So let me ask you a question. Can you dedicate the next week? No, I'm sorry. Let me back up. I said, okay. How many hours per day are you studying for the NCLEX right now? And they said 3 to 4 hours. And I'll be honest with you, probably my first response was probably not that sensitive, but I kind of stand by it. So if somebody says 3 to 4 hours and they are taking 4 weeks to study for the NCLEX, for most people, that's not enough time, and that's not and again, I'm sorry to borrow this kind of worn out phrase, but stats don't care about feelings. They don't. If you're studying 3 to 4 hours a day for the NCLEX, and you are and your statistics in a nationally recognized NCLEX preparation resource says that you are 50% in most of your categories, and you do an assessment and it says you're borderline, I think that kind of means that you're not doing an adequate job. You're not putting in an adequate amount of time in order to pass the test the first time. That means you are setting yourself up for failure. And that is, I'm sorry, I don't want that for you. I want you to be successful. I want you to go into that test and absolutely freaking smash it. But this person, for some reason, I say, okay, can you come along with me for this? If you can't delay this, another week or something like that, can you suck it up for a week and just have a really horrible freaking week as far as studying goes? Can you, this week is going to suck. If you do what I ask, or if you do what I suggest, because I didn't ask anything really. I mean, I asked questions, but hey, you should do this or whatever. I just said, are you able to do this? And they're like, okay. I was like, what do you suggest? So I'm like, okay. So obviously one of the resources that I believe in the most is Mark Klimek. I did a 3-part series with him. It's season 3, episode 22, 23, 24 from 2019. Fantastic interview, a lot of fun, and a lot of fun to listen to, I think. But I was like, go listen to this. Okay, you have 7 days or so until your test. So listen to these 3 a day, and it's not to listen to me; it's to listen to Mark Klimek, because I think he lays out a really good argument for what he does and the resource that he provides. And Kaplan, I'm sorry, I know a lot of people like Kaplan, and but the more resources that I review, the less respect that I have for Kaplan as a resource. I know that some people really like it. Nurse K really liked it. That really appealed to her, and that decision tree appealed to her, and it worked for her. But it didn't work for me, and I know that a lot of people who use Kaplan have to also use another resource, because it's not enough, and because they have to expose themselves to, in my opinion, better written questions. And that's just my opinion, and you can take it, with a grain of salt, or well salted, as you choose. But I said, okay, so so given where their scores were in UWorld, given where the assessment put them, I said, okay, this is just, it's not adequate. You're spending 3 to 4 hours, and granted, they said 3 to 4 hours minimum. I was like, okay. And I think back to my time studying for the NCLEX, and I go, okay, so I did probably 3 to 4 hour sessions per day. So I was doing, 12 to 18 hours of studying per day for basically 6 weeks. And that made sure that and it was effective studying, or at least by the time I figured all this stuff out and kind of took a more academic approach to it, which I've talked about a couple of times, and maybe I'll review it just a little bit here, but because of the academic view I took of these resources, I feel like I had, especially by the end, I was able to utilize those resources smartly, right? Intelligently utilize the resource available to me. So, for example, UWorld has this great feature where, number one, they have questions ranked in rate of difficulty, I guess you could say it, or the percentage of people who get this question right. So, I might be reversing it, but I think it's like, if it's a 90% question, that means that 90% of people who get presented with this question get it correct. I think the advantage of that is when you are doing a review, let's say you do 75 questions or 60 questions or whatever it is. If you do 60 questions and you have a whole bunch in the 90% category, 80, 90% category that you get wrong. In other words, if 90% of people get this question right and you get that question wrong, you better have an incredible understanding, an absolutely clear understanding of why you got that question wrong. You absolutely must understand why everybody else gets this right and you got it wrong. And maybe it's just, you had the facts right, but maybe you didn't have maybe you misread the question. And then you can go back and go, well, how was I wrong on that? And, a little bit of self-reflection. Weirdest thing, we get a lot of wisdom from self-reflection. And, you can go back and you can be like, hey, I think I misunderstood that because I read this question as saying this, but it was asking this. So maybe a very vague example is the question, has, well, this person has a potassium level of 3.4, but they have right-sided numbness and droopiness and weakness. Whatever the questions and answers are. Are you going to be the person who focuses on the fact that they have a potassium level of 3.4, which is, if the normal levels of potassium are 3.5 to 5.0, then it's like, oh, well, that's low. Okay. Yeah, it's technically low. I would call that a low normal. And not something that I think that I would, certainly not if someone is having perhaps like a stroke, that's a lower priority if their potassium level is slightly low, and I mean very slightly, statistically insignificantly low, you're probably okay. And so that's an important distinction. So if you can look at that question and be like, all right, so the question really wasn't about my ability to identify what a normal level of potassium is, but whether or not I can prioritize a stroke over a slightly abnormal electrolyte imbalance. That's a good thing to know, right? And so, if again, like, there's a little bit of science and trickery to the NCLEX and the questions. I suggest is like, okay, so I'm going to have you do something first, and then based on that, then I will make a suggestion. But this entire conversation I had with this person was mostly me asking questions because I don't know where they are. I was like, okay, how many hours a day are you studying? How many questions are you doing a day? How long have you been studying? How long have you been preparing for the NCLEX? How much longer do you have left? If you are truly not prepared, can you delay a week? Or, what's the timeline if you have to delay and pick another test date? Lots of questions like that because I don't know what's going on in their life, and I don't know where they are. So just making a suggestion without knowing some of those things is foolhardy, I think. So, so I said, okay, because I believe in the resource that is Mark Klimek and Klimek Reviews, I say, okay, here's the interview. It's a 3-part interview. It'll take you 3.5 hours or whatever. I can't remember how long all 3 of them are put together, but it'll take you 3 or 4 hours to listen to these. And then after you do that, let me know what you think. And they came back at me like, well, you obviously work for someone. You've successfully made me feel like shit. Like, whoa, I'm asking questions. Like, I'm not, like, literally the only suggestion that I have made is that you listen to this thing, and then you can decide whether or not this resource that I will present to you, that I get no kickback. Like, I get no benefit from pointing people towards Mark Klimek. None whatsoever. I have absolutely no ties. I gain no benefit whatsoever Like, this podcast is a labor of love. 100% labor of love. Have I tried to get some sponsors? Yeah, because it'd be nice to, because everything's coming out of my pocket. So, like, to be able to offset a little bit of the cost for publishing and stuff like that, yeah, it'd be great. But I'm not, like, beholden to some big sponsor that makes me talk about this, that, or the other thing. And if they did, I would be like, all right, yeah, well, this isn't working out. So, thanks for your time. Sorry, this isn't going to work out. But like, they said to me, says, you've made me feel like shit, and you don't know my life or what else I have going on. I was like, well, I mean, I asked questions. Like, I didn't just suggest things out of the blue and just point you towards my resource where I'm working. Like, I wouldn't do that. I don't think I did do that. And again, I don't benefit from me pointing people towards Mark Klimick or nursing.com or Kaplan or UWorld. I get nothing. Absolutely nothing. I have no vested interest in any of these resources whatso-freaking-ever. So I'm a little bit confused by this. And I said, well, I mean, this is my podcast, and, you do have a tight timeline, and your scores are low to be confident going into the exam in a week. And, maybe you can turn it around, but I'm trying to show you a resource. And, it just seems like I don't think I'm doing the wrong thing here. Like, I'm not benefiting from this in any way. So, of course I don't know your life. And, that's why I ask all those questions instead of suggesting things that may not work for, this person. And, I got the, thanks, but no thanks. And obviously that's their choice. And, you can't win them all, but I was kind of flabbergasted by this, because I just stats don't care about your feelings. Like, obviously something is not going right here. And this was a social media post that started with I'm really worried about this. I'm stressed out. Should I go out and do this, or should I do this, or what should I do? I'm open to suggestions. And the first thing I did was ask probably 15 questions to try to understand where this person is coming from. And that doesn't seem like it's a bad approach. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely 100% off base. And if I am, please write in and tell me at realtalknursing@gmail.com, or contact me through Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook Messenger. Please tell me where I'm wrong, because I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to be wrong. The interview that I had with Andrew Heaton last week, 2 weeks ago, was, I'm probably 20% wrong. I just don't know what 20%. So, and I don't want to be wrong any longer than I have to be. So please tell me where I'm wrong, and I'm happy to learn. But statistics don't care about your feelings. So I think if there's something that I want people to take away from this conversation, it's that if these, well-known resources, it's not like Bob's Diner and NCLEX preparation resource, you know what I mean? It's like not some unknown thing or whatever. It's like, Kaplan is a pretty good resource. I don't like them, but, they didn't work. It didn't work for me. It didn't make sense for me. And that's what I mean by I don't like them, but they didn't work for me. It didn't make sense for how I think. UWorld, I think, is a great resource. Nursing.com is obviously a good resource. Mark Klimick, I think, is probably the best resource of the ones that I have reviewed. And I've reviewed a lot. That's one of the benefits of having a show like this. So, of those things, I I don't benefit from any of it. So just if those resources are telling you that you're not ready yet and you have less than a week or a week left, it's time to do a reassessment. And I talked about with my interview with Nurse Matt, if you guys remember that we talked about kind of the shoulder pat versus other stuff kind of, you know, kind of motivation. Like if you have the shoulder pat kind of stuff all the time, I feel like you are going to be too. I think you're going to struggle within the nursing profession because it's hard. And I want people to understand where I'm coming from. So suffice it to say that I don't like these kind of interactions, that I'm hurt by this, that somebody would think that that I'm not, that I'm in it for some benefit to myself. I'm not. And despite the fact that John Hawes has created a great empire for himself and has earned a great income through all of this, and has created a great income for a lot of the people who are close to him and work for him, I don't think he's in it for that. He's in it to help other people, and so am I. I do this for free. In fact, I do this for negative free. It costs me money to do this, and I don't get anything back from people. I don't get anything back. So Badge Lady by nerdware.com, I don't get anything from her. I think her product is awesome. Coletta Hewitt, when I did the interview with her, I didn't get anything from her. I bought her book, and okay, let me rephrase. I bought the book. I shipped it to her. She signed a couple copies for me, which is pretty awesome, and sent it back to me, which is pretty awesome. So I guess I benefited in that way. And so if someone, especially like a nationally known, a well-recognized and well-respected NCLEX prep resource says, I don't think you're ready. Statistically, you're not ready for this. Statistics don't care about your feelings. I'm sorry, but they don't. So, you can argue against that stuff if you want, and that's and my opinion kind of goes with that. If you disagree, I'll be like, sounds good. Live your life. Good luck to you. I wish you absolutely nothing but the best, and sincerely, I wish you nothing but the best. I don't agree. I want to know. And it's not an opinion where it's like, well, I just don't agree with you, and therefore you're wrong and stupid and blah blah blah, whatever. If you don't 100% agree with me, that's not what this is. I don't think I've communicated that. It's just my opinion, and you can disagree with me. Totally fine. Totally fine. But as someone who has experienced a lot, as someone who took the test twice, as someone who learned a lot from that first experience, learned a lot from that experience, and was able to translate that into a useful lesson, and was able to use that experience in order to review other resources, in order to help push people towards, valuable versus invaluable resources. Does that mean the same thing? Valuable, invaluable? I think it does. But valuable versus not valuable resources. I think that I have a pretty good basis for my opinion. Your feelings, compared to, again, a national resource that says you're not ready, that could cost you, if you are wrong, 6 weeks before you get your RN. I think it's worth listening to. And again, if you don't agree, if you think I'm full of crap, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen to you. If you think I'm full of crap, tell me. That's okay. I'm willing to be wrong. I'm willing to learn. The question is, are you? And that's where I'm going to leave you. Thanks for listening to this stupid rant. If you disagree, let me know. You can write to me at realtalknursing@gmail.com, or you can contact me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at realtalknursing. And I just want to let you guys know that I love you. I respect you. Thanks for continuing to listen. Thanks for continuing to hear and subscribe. And I love you guys. Just tell me what's going on in your life. Write in. I'd like to know that everybody's doing okay in this crazy time. Tell me about your experiences. Tell me about how I can help you. And tell me what I need to know in order to make sure that I'm not just coming in front of this mic and just completely blowing smoke. So, love you guys. Talk to you soon.
Are you tired of the same old badge reel? Do you have to wear the same scrub color as everyone else? Are your undershirts boring and kinda stinky after wearing your lucky shirt through 5 in a row 12s? You can wear your personality in other ways. Go to badgeladybynerdwear.com and check out her massive selection. Tell her you're a Real Talk School of Nursing podcast listener and use the promo code REALTALK20 at checkout for 20% off your order. Expect 2 to 3 weeks for custom orders and a few days depending on her actual job schedule, because she's a real nurse, to get your badges made and shipped. I know you'll treat her like your best friend at clinicals, so go to badgeladybynerdwear.com and order the coolest custom and original badge reels out there. Go to badgeladybynerdwear.com and use the promo code REALTALK20 for 20% off your order. That's badgeladybynerdwear.com and use the promo code REALTALK20 for 20% off your order.
Our sponsor for this segment is Bergman Grossman's Day-Old Countryside Open Air Fish Market. You know, we're all strapped for cash, so why spend your hard-earned money on fresh fish when you can spend less money on a slightly older fish? Let's be honest. Is a day-old fish sitting in the sun in the geometric center of the United States really that much different from fresh fish that's sold at oceanside markets? Some of the fish might be slightly older than a day, but that just means it's discounted even more. Cook it over a campfire and you'll never be able to tell the difference between necrosis and good old campfire char. So go down to Birchman & Grossman's Day-Old Countryside Open Air Fish Market right across from the Sunset Motel and RV Park in Bellefouche. Mention the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast for a free basket of raw crustaceans. Take them fresh or ship them anywhere in the lower 48 via the U.S. Postal Service for their $8 special 6-day guaranteed delivery service. So stop down at Birchman Grossman's Day-Old Countryside Open Air Fish Markets in downtown Bellefouche. Or stop by for the grand opening of their second location, Birchman Grossman's 2-day-old Countryside Open Air Fish Market just off Highway 85 in Jolly Dump. Pasture parking and porta-johns are available for all paying customers. BYOTP, or bring your own toilet paper. Birchman Grossman's Day-Old Countryside Open Air Fish Market. If you think the name is a mouthful, wait till you try the fish. This Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is a Real Talk production. This podcast is dedicated to our brothers and sisters on the front lines of this COVID-19 situation, and to my brother, First Lieutenant Justin Smith, Blood and Steel.
Sic semper tyrannis, facta non verba.
Good night, Steve Cannon, wherever you are. Annyeong, Kasayo. Now you go home. Thanks for listening. You can support the show directly on our Patreon account at www.patreon.com/realtalknursing and gain benefits such as early content, shoutouts, and special swag. Write into the show at realtalknursing@gmail.com or use Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at realtalknursing. Thank you for supporting our friends, affiliates, and sponsors and following us all on social media. More listeners, likes, and followers means more and better shows. Make sure to share the episode with classmates and give a hand up to those who are coming behind us. Don't forget to reach out and tell us if you have any announcements or special shout-outs to friends, classmates, or colleagues. If you like the show, the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is available everywhere, so go to wherever you download podcasts, subscribe, rate us, review us, write into the show, and smash that subscribe button. Remember to leave only 5-star reviews because that's the only ratings that count to get us noticed by more nursing students. We want you to be part of this crazy nursing school journey. The Real Talk School of Nursing podcast is a holy moly, I can't believe you're still listening to this podcast.